Thank you very much, Stephen Crotus, and you're still live to us here at the seat of Parliament. We are just outside the Cape Town City Hall, and this is where the venue of the state capture, or rather the State of the Nation address. Why am I thinking state capture in my mind? In fact, the minister I'm about to talk to is laughing endlessly on the other side of Minister Lindiwe Zulu. Let me tell you, Stephen, that this occasion of the State of the Nation address is used by the President both in his capacity as head of state, as I've explained earlier, that the state is separated in three. There is the legislature, there is the executive, which is government, that the President Ramaphosa leads, and then there is the judiciary. So that's the state. And then he also uses this occasion as head of government, and that's where he sets out the priorities for his government in the year ahead, but also looking back at some of the highlights of what the year looked like before we come again to this occasion of the State of the Nation address. Let's speak now to Minister Lindiwe Zulu, Minister of Social Development. Minister, thank you very much for your time. Let's start with perhaps what is quite topical at the moment. We'll deal with social development in a moment. Again, I'm going to ask this question. It's almost becoming rhetorical, but it's important that we put it out there because sections of the South African community are saying times are hard. The cost of living crisis is becoming heavier and heavier. So, tone down on the pomp and ceremony. That means, as beautiful as you look today, but South Africans may not necessarily appreciate that right now because you need to be in the moment with them, the moment of difficulty. How do you respond to that?
Thank you very much, Toli, and thank you for the opportunity. There are ceremonies in South Africa across the board, cultural ones, all kinds of ceremonies. And every time there's a ceremony, people step up to say, what must we do in order for us to step up to that particular ceremony? And in this particular case, we are in the ceremony of the State of the Nation, where the President is going to be delivering his message of hope to the people of South Africa. Talking about pomp and ceremony, that has long been cut down. If those who remember can recall, from the 90s, 1994, right up to the late 2000s, what pomp and ceremony used to be. It's not there anymore. And I'm sure you have seen for yourself, even the red carpet is very short in comparison to what it used to be before. So one of the things we mustn't lose sight of, just because we are in a difficult situation, doesn't mean we are people who are not proud of ourselves, who are not proud of what we are capable of doing. By the way, remember, Toli, most of the people that are going to be walking out here nicely dressed, many of them would have acquired what they're going to be wearing through local designers. Yes. So local is lekker. This is also an opportune moment for the local designers to showcase what they are capable of doing. This is the time to also lift the spirit of South Africans. But the pomp and ceremony is gone. Remember, in the olden days, we used to even come out of here and go to some dinner. Yeah. There's no dinner. There's no fancy dinner that's happening anymore. And that is simply because government itself took that decision of saying, we don't have that much money anymore to be doing those things. The time for that was relevant at the time, but that time is now gone.
Minister, let's come to the promised disruptions. There's no better way of asking the question, because there is a promise to disrupt, and that's because a political party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, saying that the president does not deserve to stand on that platform given the issues surrounding him. You're one of those that become very vocal when moments like that happen. Do you think that that is something that South Africans want to see happen here today, given the difficult times that they're going through, given the message that they probably are most importantly looking forward to say, how is the electricity crisis going to be resolved?
Toli, there's always a space and time for everything. And I think that the majority of South Africans welcomed the different political parties as they were growing, because it is South Africans again that were voting for them to be in parliament. But there's always a space and time. And I think the space and time for disruptions, for me, they are gone and past. It is now a time where collectively, across the political spectrum, irrespective of which political party you belong to, this is the time where South Africans need to really now pull together and say, yes, we can see there's no energy, there's no electricity. What do we do about it? What thinking, what thoughts? The president likes talking about pearls of wisdom. Give me some pearls of wisdom. What pearls of wisdom do we need right now collectively as South Africans? Yes, we can say the Constitution allows them to demonstrate, allows them to be disruptive. But right now, I think the majority of South Africans are actually getting a little bit tired of it and are looking at us to say, we've given you our vote. What we want you to do with our vote is go there and find solutions to the problems. And so when they come here and they plan, I'm sure they've been doing that already. We're used to that right now. What is important is, do the institutions know how to handle that, still respecting the rights of different political parties? Do we know? We've got the rules in the House, by the way, so there's no disorder there because we have rules. So the rules must be implemented so that we have a peaceful presentation of the budget. And you are so right when you say right now a lot of people are looking at the problems that we are facing of energy, of unemployment, of inequality, of hunger and poverty. That's where we need to focus on.
Well, on that very theme of poverty, hunger, that is out there, South Africans, ordinary South Africans, are experiencing. You lead a Department of Social Development. What are some of the measures that you could use to alleviate the pressure? You're probably going to say the social relief of distress grant is there. In all probability, some South Africans are saying it's too little. Maybe you should raise it a little bit. But there are those who are going to say no, but you're creating a welfare state. Where do you find the balance?
We have to find the balance as government, because whenever other people might be saying what they're saying, we need to respond to the felt needs of our people. We need to respond to the pain of our people. We need to respond to the fact that many South Africans want to get up and go out somewhere and find a job, but the jobs are not there. So what we expect to hear from the president, for instance, is how are we going to be able to create those jobs? What we're going to hear from the president is that message of hope, and in particular in saying what are the specific programs that are going to be implemented by his government in the different departments to respond to that. As for those who talk about a welfare state, it's a pity that people are thinking that way. The bottom line for us at the Department of Social Development, we're exposed to rural areas where people have got absolutely nothing. So when you have the social grants, and only I'm not talking about the 350, I'm talking about all the other social grants, the grants for the elderly, the grants for the children, the grants for the people with disability. That is government's response to those kind of challenges. Every time we come into State of the Nation and the Minister of Finance makes an announcement, usually there's an increase, no matter how small that increase might be. Those are the things that we're looking forward to. But with regard to the 350, remember that it was supposed to have ended, and the president, together with his government, realized that ending it is foolhardy because COVID was still there, because hunger and unemployment is still there. It was extended until next year, 2024. What we're looking at it as a stepping stone now to the basic income grant, because people must wake up to this reality. You wake up in the morning, you've got water, you can put water in a glass and drink. You wake up in the morning, you've got a bathroom to go to, run quickly, and there's something in the bathroom. You wake up to a bathroom that's got a toothbrush, a toothpaste, a face cloth. Just think about the people who have got absolutely nothing of that sort.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the basic income grant, Xoli, we're looking at resources that can enable people even on the basics before they can even say, I'm going to use the money to go out and look for a job. I'm going to use the money to go to somewhere where I can look for the job. Or at least I can put bread on the table.
Yeah.
That's where we are as a department.
Well, Minister, I mean, you speak very well about why these interventions are necessary. The social grant, the ordinary social grant that the 18 million plus South Africans have been receiving, and then you have the 350. That's about 10.5 million South Africans who are now on that program.
It's 18 million.
18 million.
Yep.
Minister, it's about the people then being able to access that money without sitting in a scorching sun like this, where we are in Cape Town today, and standing in that queue for hours on end, only for you to be told something went wrong, you need to go back home. How do you resolve those challenges?
Technology, Xoli. In today's world, when you go today and get your driver's license, I think now it takes much, much shorter time than in the past. You fill up the forms and you're done very quickly. That very same technology, the technology that is helping other departments to be very quick, Home Affairs, you're applying for your ID. If you look at what it was 10, 15 years ago and what it is today and how long it takes you, it's about technology. Lastly, the 350, COVID-19, it taught us a lesson that we can frog lip the issue of technology, because for the 350, nobody went to any office. For the 350, nobody had to be sitting in any office and queuing and sitting in front of sometimes somebody who's bored with themselves and responding very slowly to their person. We made sure that all the millions, almost 15 million people, South Africans, who applied for the 350, it was just here on their fingertips. So it's the same thing that I'd like to do, I'd like to see happening, working with the post office, working with the post bank, working with the banks. And I think the banks have done a lot of good, never mind that we have to pay so much money for that. Many of our people are now getting their money through just going to the ATM. Many are going to the commercial, your Spar, your Pick and Pay, your all that. They are able to go there. Not only do they access by buying, they can also get their money there. Yeah. What we would like to see, let's take that to the township so that people do not have to travel the long distances anymore.
Ultimate solution to the big banks, as you've mentioned, even though they charge you huge sums of money to disburse these monies. What's the ultimate solution to that? But couple that response, Minister, with the basic income grant. Is that what your department ultimately is pushing for? Because that has been said to simply be unaffordable.
The unaffordability must be countered by saying, can we afford to have so much poverty? Can this country afford people who go to bed without food? Can we afford, you're in Cape Town, if you can just get out of here and move around and see how many people are homeless, how many people are on the street with absolutely nothing. What we say as a department, the country cannot afford to have so many people without nothing when we've got others who've got so much that sometimes it goes to waste. Our approach, Xoli, is to say, can we make sure that every South African goes to bed not in a hungry stomach? Can everybody wake up and in the morning, and the children being able to go to the ECD, the children being able to go to school, the children being able to come back home and find something that they can be able to eat? We are pushing for that, and we believe that we've got a full support of the African National Congress, obviously, because let me tell you, the basic income grant was adopted by conference as something that we need to implement. The basic income grant was adopted by the Lihutla of the ANC that took place after that recently, beginning of the last month. It was adopted. What is left of us is, what kind of a basic income grant do we introduce for South Africa? Because Basic income grant is nothing new. It's been there all over. You go to Germany, they'll tell you they have it. They give their people, those who have got absolutely nothing, it's huge. Because what they don't want is to have people who are homeless, people who've got no food, people who can't even put any clothes on top of them. That's what we want. We don't want a society and community where people are walking up and down, because the psychosocial impact of that and the impact of social ills that is coming out of the fact that people have got absolutely nothing, they're roaming around, and then the drug lords will be running around and wanting to give them drugs and all that. It is possible for South Africa.
Very briefly, Minister. So what figures are you discussing inside your cabinet meetings then as to if this basic income grant eventuates, how much money are people to look forward to?
It's got to be an amount that is above poverty line. And poverty line is properly described even by the United Nations. The United Nations said that's why we lifted the 350 of how much you have in the bank in order for you to be able to receive money. We lifted it up to 640. By the way, that's not about lifting the money that people get. We had to look at what is that. So we're looking at above 1,000, 1,200, if that is possible, because we've got to have an amount of money that will make people at least earn a living. And lastly, only that money, people are not going to use the money for anything else. They're going to take it back to the economy. They're going to buy their basics, as the 350 has shown, that if you have the 350 and if you pull it together, families pay for electricity. Sometimes that's not there. Families sometimes they buy the most basics for their families.
Minister Lindiwe Zulu, the Social Development Minister, thank you very much for your time and clarity on these matters. So there you have it, big discussions around the basic income grant. Will that come into effect sometime soon? We're going to have to watch this space.